you ever thought about a beautiful dashboard for your Blue Prism processes? How wonderful is that if it can communicate with the Blue Prism database directly and updates the report automatically, that too on a real-time basis. Hi, this is Omala Nitish from TextWord. Today I came up with an interesting concept where we are going to utilize the Microsoft Power BI for creating powerful and visually appealing dashboards that can provide us the information related to Blue Prism work use. For this, we require the following prerequisites. The first one is an SQL database. You might be already aware that Blue Prism uses SQL database for storing the data. The next one is Power BI desktop installed on your machine. We will be following the steps as mentioned below for creating the dashboard I am talking about. First, we create a connection to the data source, which in our case is an SQL database. Next, we should create a dashboard with the visuals provided by Microsoft, proceeded by customizing the look and feel of the visuals, and finally publishing the dashboard and testing it with varying data. Open Blue Prism. Here, click on Configure Connection. Select the required connection and make a note of the database server and database name. These values are required while creating the data source connection in Power BI. Let me log into Blue Prism. As you can see, I have two work queues in my Blue Prism environment. Each work queue has items with completed, exception and pending status. We'll be creating our dashboard on these work queues. Now open Power BI Desktop. I'm not giving in-depth explanation of Power BI in this video, but if you follow the steps along with me, you should be able to easily create the dashboard. Click on Get Data. Here search for SQL Server Database and click on Connect. Enter the database server name and database name that we copied earlier and click on OK. This opens the navigator window which shows all the tables in the database. Here search for BPA work queue and select it. On the right hand side is a preview of the data in the selected table. Depending on the size of the table, the preview may take some time to load. This particular table has the information related to the work queue within the current environment. Similarly, here search for BPA work queue item and select it. This table contains the information related to work items that are available within the current environment. After selecting all the required tables, click on Load. With this, we have completed configuring a connection to the target data source. Now, we'll proceed with adding the visuals to our canvas and customizing them as per our needs. On top, you see is the ribbon panel. Just like most Microsoft products, it gives access to various tools and options for working with Power BI. The pane in the center of the screen is the canvas where we'll be creating our dashboards. On the right hand side, you can see the data, visualizations and filtered panes. All the tables that you have selected are visible under data pane. On expanding each table, you get to see all the columns of that particular data table. The visualizations pane shows various visuals available. You can also adjust the properties of your visuals from this pane. The filters pane allows you to set advanced filters for your visuals. Let's start with a simple visual first. Click on card visual from the visualization pane. You can see a new blank visual on your canvas. I want to utilize this tile to display the average time taken by the bots for processing each transaction. How to find which table and column has this information? Click Data View and click BPA Work Queue item. This table stores the information of all work items available in your work queues. For example, key value. It contains the ID of a work item. Status gives the status of a work item that is completed, pending, and exception. Attempt number of times a particular work item was worked. Loaded date and time information when the work item was first loaded into the work queue. Completed. It stores the date and time when an item was processed successfully. Exception. If any work item was not processed successfully, the date and time of that event is recorded here. Exception reason. The reason of exception will be stored here. Work time. Time taken for processing a work item is recorded here, and so on. For now, we want to find the average handling time which we can get from work time column from the BPA work queue item table. Switch back to the canvas by clicking Report View button. Select the card visual you added earlier to adjust its properties. Make sure you are in the Build Visual tab under Visualizations pane. Expand the BPA work queue item table. Drag work time from the data pane and place it in the Fields tab. You can see the visual on the canvas showing sum of work time, but we'll be requiring the average of work time. So click the drop down here and change the calculation mode to average. Now the card visual on the canvas showing average processing time. Double click here to change the label name to AHT in seconds and click on enter. Adjust the size of the visual and position it as required. Make sure the card visual is selected on the canvas and go to Format Your Visual tab under the Visualization pane. Click General, expand Effects, enable background option and change the color of tile from here. You can see the color of the visual changing. But what in case if you want the color of the visual to be dependent on the value it's holding? For example, green for values below 6, yellow for values between 6 and 7, and red for values above 7. Yes, it's possible with the conditional formatting option. With the visual still selected, click Effects button. A pop-up window will open. Change the format style to rules and change the summarization to average and set the rules. If value greater than 0 and less than or equals to 6, change the color to green and click on New Rule. If value greater than 6 and less than or equals to 7, change the color to yellow. If value greater than 7 and less than or equals to max, then change it to red. Click OK to close the window and you can see the visual with new color. The color of this visual changes as per the rules we have defined. As a last step for this visual, we'll customize the font. With the visual still selected, go to Visual tab under Visualization pane. Expand the callout value and set the font to bold and change the size to 45. This changes the properties of the font. Similarly, expand the category label, change the font to bold, change the color to black, size to 35. For changing the font of the label, there are several other options available here, including the conditional formatting. This card visual currently is showing the average processing time, considering the work item from all work queues in your environment. What if you want to find the AHT for the items in a particular work queue? Unselect all the existing visuals on the canvas. Click on Slicer Visual from the Visualization pane. We want a drop down for choosing the work queue we need. The name column under BPA work queue table holds the names of all work queues in your environment. Drag the name column from BPA work queue table and drop it on Add Data fields here. You can now see the work queue displayed in the visual. Click Format your visual, expand slicer settings and change the style to drop down. Expand the selection and disable single select, multi-select with control options. Enable show select all option. This setting allows you to select multiple or all values from the drop-down. Turn off slicer header. Expand values. Change the font color to black. Click bold. Increase the font size to 15 and change the padding to 3 pixels. Go to General tab. Turn on title and expand title. Type select a queue in the text field. This is the title for your visual. Increase the font to 20. Click bold. Change the text color to white and background color to black. With this, we have completed adding a drop down for selecting the work queues. Let's verify its functionality. Open the Select a Queue drop down from the slicer and select the first queue. Now change the queue from the drop down. You can see the data in the card visual getting changed. Open the drop down again and select all so that it will be easier for us to proceed with next steps. Resize the visual and position it on the top left corner of the canvas. Let's continue designing the dashboard with more visuals. Unselect all the visuals on your canvas and click Donut Chart from the Visualizations pane. This will add a blank donut chart to your canvas. We'll use this visual to show the performance metrics for the selected queue. Place this visual between slicer and card visuals and adjust its size to fit between the two. With the visual selected, expand the BPA work queue table, drag the status column and drop it into on the lesson. Similarly, drag ID column and drop it on values field. Now you can see the visual got updated and showing the data based on different statuses. If you hover the cursor here, you can also see a callout showing more insights. Click Format Visual and go to Visual tab, turn on Lesson and change the position to bottom center. Expand the text, set the font size to 12 and color to black. Turn off the title, expand the slices. Here you can set different colors for all the possible categories that you want the donut chart to display. Set green for completed, gray for new, yellow for business exceptions, and red for system exceptions. I recommend that your data source should have all the possible statuses initially so as to design all the possibilities. Expand the spacing and change the inner radius to 50%. Expand the detail labels, leave the position to outside and change the label contents to % of total. Expand the values, change the font size to 15, bold, color to black and percentage decimal places to 0. Go to General tab, expand title and type in performance. This will be title for your donut chart. Increase the font to 20. Click bold, change the text color to white and background color to black. Now we want a table to show the exception information. Unselect all the existing visuals from the canvas by clicking anywhere on the canvas outside the visuals. This is to avoid the existing visuals from getting replaced. Click Table under the Visualization pane, resize the visual and position it on the bottom center of the canvas. With the visual selected, drag Status from the BPA Work Queue Item table and place it under Columns. Similarly, drag Exception Reason and place it under Status. Drag Exception Reason one more time and place it under the previously dragged Exception Reason. Open this drop-down and enable the Show Items with No Data if already not selected. Change the calculation mode of the third exception reason to Count from this drop-down. This will give us the count of all the unique statuses based on the exception reason. As you can see, the table visual on the canvas is showing the exception type, exception detail, and count of those particular exceptions. Click Format Visual, expand Style Presets, and change to alternating rows. Expand Grid and turn off horizontal grid lines and vertical grid lines. Expand values, set the font size to 12, expand column headers and change the font size to 15. Set the header alignment to center. Go to General, turn on Title and expand it. Give a title as Exception Details. With the font size to 20, bold, text color to white, change the background color to black. Click Build Visual. Here we will change the column headers of the visual. Double click Status and give a name as Status in camel case and press Enter. Double click the second column and change its name to Exception Reason. Double click the third column and change its name to Exception Count. Now you can see the exception details in the table, but along with completed and new items, which we don't want in this visual. We will limit this by setting a filter on the status to show only the system exceptions and business exceptions. With the visual still selected, expand the filters pane if not visible already. Drag the status column from BPA Work Queue Item table and drop it onto the status under filters pane. Change the filter type to advanced filtering. Change this field drop down to is not and type completed here. Select the unradio button and in the second condition set it as is not new. Click apply and you can see the visual not showing any of the completed or new items. Click anywhere on the canvas outside the visuals. Click on line and stacked column chart. This chart allows us to show the comparison of three parameters at the same time. We'll use this chart to analyze the inventory and performance metrics in the last 7 days. With the new visual selected, expand the last updated column and drag the day onto the x-axis under visualization pane. Drag the status column and drop it on column y-axis. Drag the ID column onto the line y-axis. X-axis on this chart represents the last updated date. Y-axis on the left showing the item count basis their respective statuses and y-axis on the right showing the number of items processed in a particular day. Drag status column and drop it on column legend. The visual got further segregated based on unique statuses. Resize and position the visual on top of the canvas. Click Format Visual tab, turn on X-axis and set its type to categorical and adjust the font settings. Turn on Y-axis and adjust the font settings. Turn on secondary Y-axis, enable align zeros and adjust the font settings. Turn off Listen. Expand columns and adjust the colors as required. I am setting yellow for business exceptions, red for system exceptions, green for completed, and gray for pending or new items. Turn on labels and adjust the font settings. Go to General tab, expand title, and give the name as Performance in the last 7 days. Adjust the text properties with text color as white and background color as black. With this, we have completed designing the dashboard. Let's try to get the answers for few questions using our dashboard. First question, what is the AHT in BP003Q? To find the answer for this, go to Slicer and select the BP003Q from the drop-down. You can find the AHT as 8.49 seconds from the card visual. The next question, how many items were successfully completed in BP003Q? Keep the selection as BP003Q from Slicer and go to Donut Chart. Hover the cursor on green area and in the callout, you can see the answer as 57, which rounds to 81%. And the next question, what percentage of exceptions were there in all the work queues? Select all work queues from the Slicer drop-down. Now you can see the donut chart displaying 10% of business exceptions and 9% of system exceptions. And the next question, on which day of the week does the bot got highest inventory? Keep the selection from Slicer as all. The line and stacked column chart visual is showing our required value. On 19th day of the month, 70 items were assigned to bots. And the last question, how many items were loaded in the current month? None of the visuals here shows this information. Though it's possible to get the answer for this question from within this dashboard, it requires you to get the partial information from several visuals and perform some calculations. Instead of all these, what if you can get the answer instantly? Yes, you heard me right. This is where Q&A visual comes into picture. Add Q&A visual onto the canvas from the visualization pane. Feel free to play with its properties. Type in your question as how many items were loaded in the current month and press enter. This gives the value as 120, which is correct. You can also convert this Q&A visual to any other visuals. Select this visual and click on the card visual under visualizations pane. You can see the Q&A visual got transformed to a card visual with the values intact. Press Ctrl Z to undo the changes and resize the Q&A visual and position it to fit in the remaining place. Adjust the other visuals if required. Let's optimize the dashboard for mobiles. Click View from the ribbon pane and click Mobile Layout. You can see the mobile layout for designing our dashboard. Don't worry, it's not required to design everything from scratch like we did it for the main dashboard. All we need is to adjust the position and sizes of the visuals that we designed earlier. On right, you can see is the page visual pane and visualization panes. Drag the Q&A visual from the page visuals pane and drop it on the canvas. Resize it and position it on extreme top of the canvas. Drag the slicer visual, drag the card visual, drag the performance visual, and then the exception details table. Finally, drag the performance in last 7 days visual. That's all you have to do. The dashboard is ready for viewing in mobiles. Click Mobile View to exit from this view. As a final step for this exercise, let's publish the dashboard. Save the changes, click Home, and then click Publish. Select the My Workspace and click Select. Click Got It on the Success pop-up. We have now successfully published this dashboard to our workspace. If you have a Power BI Pro account, you will get more advanced options like exporting the report to an interactive PowerPoint presentation or a web page or even of a code which you can embed in external applications. Let's see how to publish the report to web. Open the URL on your browser. Sign in with your credentials if prompted. Click My Workspace. Open the dashboard with type as report that you published earlier. Click File, Embed Report, and the website or portal. You can use the HTML content in this field in any web-based applications to embed the report. Copy this URL. You have to use this link to access the report from any location. Open a new browser session in incognito mode and paste the URL that you copied in the previous steps. Sign in with your credentials if prompted. Here is the report. Congratulations! You have successfully created a fully working dashboard which is compatible for both web-based and mobile viewing.